It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Chad Ford of Chad Ford's NBA Big Board Podcast, and I'll be joined by NBA champion Brian Scalabrine and former NBA GM Ryan McDonough for the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021 show starting July 19th. Locked On's local NBA experts make every pick. Subscribe today to the Ultimate Mock Draft 2021 presented by Locked On and Odyssey on the new Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets. I'm your host, Matt Moore. Thanks for joining us. We're part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Glad to be with you on a Tuesday. Adam Mares is out this week on vacation. On today's show, we will go over the Denver Nuggets' victory over the Orlando Magic, which was a fun one in a certain amount of sense because it was not uncomfortable, but not super easy. It was an interesting game. Lots to talk about with that. We'll do that in the first segment. Second segment, I have more trade talk to talk with you guys about. And then the third segment, I wanted to talk a little bit about the team chemistry and makeup and where it stands as we are, less than, by the time you hear this, it'll be like 36 hours until the NBA trade deadline. So lots to consider there. We'll talk about all those things and more tonight on Locked On Nuggets. Let's start by letting you know that today's show is brought to you by Locker Room. Download the app and join me this week on Friday. And at Friday at noon Mountain time, I'll be on Locker Room taking your questions. We'll do it in mailbag. Send us your questions to @LockedOnNuggets. This week, I'm hoping to get some of you guys up on stage to talk and ask questions and give your thoughts after whatever the Nuggets do or don't do at the trade deadline and get your thoughts on all those things. It should be a really fun one. Make sure to download the Locker Room app today. Locker Room, changing the way we talk sports. All right, so the Nuggets get the win. 110-99 over the Orlando Magic. There's a bunch of ways you can look at this game, right? Like I talked about with the last game with the Pelicans, where I said, hey, on one hand, you could look at it and say, oh, it's just the free throws. But really, when you dig into it, I blame Dylan Facu Campazzo. But what I was really trying to say was that the start of the second and the start of the fourth quarters was kind of what doomed them. In this one, I can give you like the big picture summary is the Nuggets came out with force and intensity and absolutely put the boots to the Magic and just ran roughshod, and Jokic was incredible. They outscored him 30-15 in the first quarter, and the Magic looked done. They outscored him 31-24 in the second quarter. It was a beatdown. Like it was an absolute blistering in that first half, and they looked awesome. And in the third quarter, Denver just got tired and lazy, and we're like, all right, we're done here, right? We're done. Steve Clifford teams are going to hang, and the Magic are not a good team, but they are persistent, and they got some veterans and they got some good players, and they managed to hang around. And late in the fourth quarter, they made it a 6-point game. Believe it or not, the Nugget stars came back in and kind of got things back under control, but then they made it 6 again. Time was running down. It didn't necessarily feel like the Nuggets were going to lose, but you never want these things to get out of hand. And Michael Porter Jr. hits 2 threes, one after Jamal Murray missed a wide open reverse dunk after Jokic hit him with a great pass. Didn't hit it, got the offensive rebound, kicked it out, extra pass. Porter makes a 3, and that's it. You could tell the Magic were like, all right, fine. Okay, we made a show of it. Lots of good stuff in this one, I thought, to talk about. Let's start with Nikola because Adam's not here. And I never get to talk about Nikola because Adam usually wants to talk about him. 28 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, just 3 turnovers, only 2 fouls, a plus 11, led all players, 11 of 17 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3. Just Jokic was a monster. And he was a monster right out of the gate in this game. In the first quarter, Jokic he was hitting. The biggest thing was just that Vucevic couldn't do anything with his face-up game. Just not a darn thing. So Jokic in the first quarter goes for 8 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. He follows that up in the second quarter and goes for 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 5 shooting. I mean, it was crazy. Like, he just absolutely dominated the first half and set the tone for, the fact that nobody could really, the Nuggets knew that they were going to win this game. And so Jokic was in full command tonight. Just the passing, hitting cutters, look ahead. He ran the break with Porter when they were trying to get the game back under control in the fourth quarter. Like, all right, let's just go. Let's finish this. And he hits Porter with a twisting layup for his 10th and the triple double. It was, according to Altitude Sports, his 53rd career triple double, which is really, really just an incredible figure. Look, the triple double has become controversial because there's been stats inflation. I will agree with that. And Westbrook definitely angled for it. I'll agree with that. But I will also just say, like, there is something to contributing double-digit production in those 3 categories: points, rebounds, and assists, which are crucial to the game of basketball. Scoring for yourself, providing opportunities for others to score, and finishing possessions with rebounds. Those are important categories. And to put up a 28, 15, 10 line, I just don't have really enough to say about Jokic. He was simply incredible tonight all the way through, except for the third quarter, in which really nobody on the Nuggets played well. Michael Porter Jr. finished with 18 points on 8 of 14 shooting, thanks to those 2 threes at the end of the game to kind of put the game away. Did have 7 boards, strong game. I'm not going to pick on his defense too much. Were there troubles? Yeah, more so than maybe some of the other games I saw, especially like first and third quarter, there were some issues. Third quarter especially, he got caught in a couple of situations where the Magic took advantage of his need to make an extra rotation. They put him in bad positions. But some of that's also just there wasn't contained on the outside. This is part of it with Porter, is like, if you contain on the outside, he's probably going to be fine. But he can't help you. Like you can't go to Michael Porter Jr. and be like, hey, I need you to make up for somebody else's mistake. That's not happening. And I don't want to pick on him too much because honestly, I thought he was fine and that there were worse players on the floor defensively. Jamal Murray has 21 points on 8 of 21 shooting, 4 assists, 2 steals, hit some big ones late to kind of put the game away. Murray, I thought most in the third quarter I thought he was a big part of why the meltdown kind of occurred. So, in the third quarter, he goes 0 for 3, 0 points, is a minus 14. The starters came out flat after half, just being like, we're just going to go through the motions. Jokic goes 3 of 4, but he does have all 3 turnovers in that quarter, just lazy, sloppy passes. Murray had 1 turnover in that one and probably should have been attributed with another one. Just the starters just played badly in the third quarter, and they played for a lot of it. Will Nicola played the entire third because I think Malone was hoping they would blow them out on the back-to-back and he could get them rest. It's not really what happened, so you just wound up playing them a lot of minutes. But I will say this, there's also something to, like, look, there's going to be playoff games down the line where they're going to need to play these games. You do want to start heading guys more towards longer minutes as the season goes on. So I don't necessarily mind it from that perspective. I just thought that I really didn't like the third quarter from Jamal in particular. The fourth quarter was better from him scoring wise. He was 3 of 6, hits 10 points. He got to the line for 2 key trips late in the fourth that were just like, stretch it out, get this thing back under control. The Nuggets just kind of handled things in the second half. Like, they made the big run and the Nuggets kind of said like, well, okay, all right, well, fair play to you. Barton in that third quarter I thought was really bad. 2 of 5 shooting, didn't take good shots. The turnovers I thought were pressed. The bench was fine, but it just didn't really play all that much. Malone did try some new tricks with that second unit this game. So Campazzo finishes with like all sorts of really good numbers. And part of that is in this one, Malone made sure to stagger more minutes with Campazzo next to Jokic. And that helped things, which this is like a double-edged sword as we continue to talk about Campazzo, in that Campazzo genuinely does look good next to Jokic. My only problem with that is I'm just like, everyone looks good next to Jokic. So, but he did look fine. The bench unit played really well. Like, he was part of the run. Like, he was a plus 11 in the first half. I didn't think that he was any sort of problem in the second half. He was a minus 2, 0 of 4 shooting, but I didn't think he was an issue. Not much to speak of, honestly, from the bench tonight. I thought, like, first half, pretty good. PJ Dozier had a night, 6 of 11 shooting, 14 points. Thought Dozier, he hit some runners. He got into his bag a little bit. No turnovers attributed to him, but there were some possessions where I think he over-dribbled a little bit. 6 boards, 2 assists for PJ, pretty good. Zeke, I thought, played pretty well. Defensively, there were some That's one of the reasons why his numbers aren't as good as some of the rest of the bench. Like the 11:45 that he played, they were net neutral, in large part because the defense kind of struggled. So that's kind of like the perception that I've got. All in all, I thought this was a good win versus a pretty bad team. If you were curious, Aaron Gordon goes for 17. I'm sorry, that's for Camino. Aaron Gordon goes for 13 points on 13 shots, that's telling. 6 of 13 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal and a block. Did play some pretty good defense. I thought the Magic, this is what's crazy, I thought the Magic starters actually played pretty good defense. Vucevic couldn't hit anything tonight. He was 8 of 25. And so just like a really rough night for him. Future possible Celtic, Evan Fournier, had 31 points and 6 assists. So he really got loose and cut everybody up. I thought Will Barton's defense was poor on him. I thought Jamal Murray's defense on him was worse. Murray just like lost track of him. Murray, and I'll say this, like Murray held up his hand several times to be like, yeah, I lost that one. Like, I'm not calling out Murray here. Like, he clearly just struggled on the defensive end tonight. Again, because I think it's tough when you play as well as it did in the first quarter and Orlando doesn't have the firepower to come back. So that's the wrap up on that game. We'll take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've learned today on the NBA trade market as the Nuggets continue conversations around the NBA. We'll get to some news that Mike Singer broke that I had also heard, and we'll talk more about everything when we come back after the break. But first, I do want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Locker Room. Locker Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app's free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with me, other fans, athletes, and insiders in real time and about your favorite team or sport. I'll be hosting rooms for Locked On Friday once a week. Yes, you can finally join in on the conversation that you listen to every day. Adam and I will be doing it on every Friday. I don't know if Adam will be around because I don't know when Adam gets back, because I tried to text him after he said I'm on vacation, and then he didn't get back to me, I think because he threw his phone into the ocean. So good for him. But I'll be around on Friday no matter what to recap the trade deadline. Locker Room is the perfect place to start or join conversations about the NBA. You're going to find fans just like you guys, and you can, build these connections and get to know one another. Those guys you're talking to on Twitter, you get to actually have conversations with them. We'll have debates, post-game breakdowns, lots of stuff. I'm sure we'll be doing more of that as the playoffs get closer, and you'll have a chance to chat with us. And I want to bring you guys on and bring you up and be on the show. So make sure to tune in Fridays at noon for our Locked On Nuggets show. Go download the free Locker Room app now, currently available on all iOS devices. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, and join the NBA group for the latest league updates. You can follow me at Hardwood Paroxysm to be notified when my room goes live. I know you won't want to miss it. I'm planning to be live this week on Friday, and I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on the Nuggets. See you there. Today's show is also brought to you by rockauto.com. There's all these different cars out there. There's all these different makes out there, and you need parts for your car or truck, and you should not have to pay a different price than what professionals do. The big box stores charge different prices for professionals and do-it-yourselfers, but not at rockauto.com. Their prices are the same for everybody, and they're reliably low. They offer the lowest prices possible rather than changing prices based on what the market will bear, like the airlines do. They're for everybody, and they don't require membership or an account login. Their catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. You can quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brands, specifications, and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. We'll be right back on Locked On. Today on the Locked On Today podcast, get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the radio.com app or wherever you get podcasts. Okay, guys. So told you about the Aaron Gordon stuff last night. We will talk more about it today because I will tell you what I've heard today. Boston, one of the things that I couldn't nail down when I reported on this stuff was exactly where talk stood with Marcus Smart with the Celtics talks for Aaron Gordon. I will get to how this relates to the Nuggets in a second, I swear. The conversation between the Magic and the Celtics have centered around 2 first-round picks with various degrees of protection, which are going to be debatable. Evan Fournier goes to the Celtics. Former Nugget, Evan Fournier, goes to the Nuggets. And at least one player from the Celtics goes to the Magic. Aaron Gordon would get absorbed to their traded player exception from the Gordon Hayward deal. And then the separate deal will be consummated with Fournier going for a pick and a player. Marcus Smart was the name that was told to me by multiple sources last night as being involved in the talks. But I also heard that the Celtics were still really reticent to give him up. I heard more on that today. As of right now, I think it is unlikely the Celtics offer Marcus Smart for Aaron Gordon. Why does this matter? One, you got to give up something in order to make the salaries work. 2, the Celtics may wind up trading Marcus Smart for John Collins. And if that happens, then you're absolutely going to they're not going to make a deal for Gordon. And that opens the door for the Nuggets, because the Nuggets are right now, to my knowledge, the second best offer on the table. There's other offers that are competing. The Nuggets have the strongest offer right now. We went over some of the details last night. It's going to involve one of Gary Harris or Will Barton. It's going to involve at least a first-round pick. The Nuggets are unlikely to attach a second-round pick. I have not gotten any sort of indication that Denver is willing to cross that line. That doesn't mean they won't change their mind, but I have no reason to think that that's going to happen. And then Bol Bol is kind of the sweetener, and then there's some pressure to attach either another pick or RJ Hampton. And I think there's reluctance on the Nuggets side. I think the Magic are actually asking for both. I think that's the case. I don't know that for sure. I think they're asking for Hampton and the pick. So this is a waiting game now to see whether somebody will come up over the top like the Bucks did with Drew Holiday, or if the Magic will get to the witching hour and the Celtics do what they usually do, which is not actually do the deal and try and squeeze a bad deal out of you. And then the Nuggets have the best package on the table and they pick up Aaron Gordon. They are very high on him. They think that the defense and playmaking complements what the team does well. I think that there's a feeling from the team that he could really help them in meaningful ways. But a lot of it's going to be about, what does Aaron Gordon want? He is not a free agent this season. He's a free agent after next year. He is extension eligible this season. Theoretically, part of the dynamic that you should keep in mind is that the Nuggets could trade for him. See how he fits, see if he fits with the locker room, see how he fits on court, see how he fits with the city, see if this is where he wants to be. Most importantly, judge what are his priorities in terms of, does he want to be a superstar? Because there's a lot of feeling around the league from people that have been close to him in the past that he thinks of himself as a star, that you give the ball to him and he produces. Like, he thinks of himself as like a Kawhi Leonard type player. That's not who Aaron Gordon is. Aaron Gordon needs to be Sean Marion. He needs to be the fill in the gap. I made this comparison to Ryan Blackburn the other night, and I think it really does work. For those of you that remember, that are old enough to remember the mid-2000s Phoenix Suns with Nash and Amari, Jokic is Nash, Murray is Amari, Porter is Joe Johnson before he left and got his big contract in Atlanta. That team absolutely cooked. And then Aaron Gordon would be Sean Marion. And that comp structure, I think, really does work, and you would be able to fill in all the gaps. He does all the things that you need in terms of defense. He's a great passer. He can finish at the rim. He can shoot from 3. He's shooting 40% from 3 this season. But a lot of this just gets into how much self-awareness does Aaron Gordon have? What does he think of himself as? Because this is the risk. If you trade for him with the idea of like, he's going to see how much he can win here and how great he can be and maximize all this and have so much success. But if he comes in and is still like, yeah, but I think I can be more, much the way that Jeremy Grant did, you're still going to run into the same problem. And you're going to be up against it because you have to figure out immediately whether or not Gordon is going to stick around. If you have to trade him at the deadline next year because you can't get a firm commitment from him that he's going to resign, you almost have to deal him so that you don't lose him for nothing. Like, imagine having given up picks for Grant, him walking, giving up picks for Gordon and assets, him walking. Like, that's way too much sunken cost. That sets you back considerably. There's risk here, is what I'm trying to tell you, is that trading for Aaron Gordon isn't just about like, hey, rescuing a player from a bad franchise. This is about, can you get him to commit? I will tell you, the Houston Rockets had intentions to trade for him, but when they started to talk extension figures, that's when it became clear it wasn't going to work. So this is, I think, the question the Nuggets have to figure out. Mike Singer today reported something that I couldn't get confirmed, which good for him. Sneaky bastard that he is. No, I'm just kidding. Mike's great. Mike and I have been texting. He reported that Harrison Barnes is the Nuggets have significant interest in Harrison Barnes. I've heard the same. And so the hang up with the Kings is there's not a clear direction. They don't know if they're trading Buddy Hield. They don't know if they're trading Nemanja Bjelica. They don't know if they're trading Marvin Bagley, and they don't know if they're trading Harrison Barnes. There is disagreement, as there often is. They have the messiest ownership structure I have ever seen. There are so many cooks in the kitchen in Sacramento, and it's the worst kept secret in the league that there's just a lot of voices in Sacramento, and everybody's got an opinion. And I do not envy Monty McNair trying to figure that entire mess out. So I think there's like a 30% chance Denver winds up with Aaron Gordon. I think there's like a 12% chance they wind up with Harrison Barnes. So that's like a 42% chance, and there's like an 8% chance they pull off some other deal. I think that whether or not they make a trade before now on the deadline is about 50-50. And if that sounds like I'm being wishy-washy, that welcome to covering the Denver Nuggets. There's not like it. And covering the NBA, if I ask the Boston writers, hey, is Ainge going to finally do something? Is he going to finally, whiz or get off the pot? They're going to be like, could be. They don't know. No one does. We do not know. Golden State's made it very apparent they're looking to deal. Miami's made it very apparent they're looking to deal. And there's still questions about both of those teams as we get closer to the deadline. If you have questions about various trades, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at HP Basketball, or hit me up on the Locked On Nuggets handle, and we will try and talk about them on the show. If there's specific guys that you want to hear about or want to know why the Nuggets are or aren't doing something, you can ask us and we will get into those details. So that's where I've got on that. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some chemistry stuff as it relates to the trade deadline, as it relates to the roster, as it relates to the future, because it's just a good opportunity, I think, to do that before we head into the madness of the next couple of days as the deadline gets closer. We'll do that when we come back. But first, did you know that Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action? You got college basketball going on right now, March Madness. Thank you, Abilene Christian. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Loyola Chicago. Thank you. Thank you. So much great stuff to bet on night after night. Bet Online even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything that you can imagine. Bet Online has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit using promo code LOCKEDON. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. It's that time again, guys. I got to tell you about Built Bar. I have to tell you about Built Bar, and I have to tell you about the Built Bar bracket for Built Bar Madness. We've been telling you about this Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market for a while now. They're the amazing low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, amazing tasting protein bar with 100% chocolate on all the bars. Now is the time to find out which Built Bar is the best. It's Built Bar Madness. So today's matchup is cookies and cream versus coconut almond. This is not a debate. It's cookies and cream. Look, coconut's nice. I like coconut. It's nice in some things. I like the drinks, the alcoholic drinks they make within the coconuts. I think those are cool. Gonna have those on the beach this summer after I get the jab. But it's cookies and cream, and this is not debatable. And that's all this is to it. This is a domination. They will crush them on the glass. They will shoot 80% from three. It's cookies and cream all the way. Go to BuiltBar.com or at bar_built on Twitter. And remember to use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. That's LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order at BuiltBar.com. And check back to see who won today's matchup and who will become the best tasting protein bar. We'll be right back on Locked On. Get more analysis on the top prospects available in this year's NBA draft with the Locked On NBA Draft podcast. Scouting reports, draft rumors, mock drafts, and full coverage of March Madness 4 days a week from the credentialed draft experts. Subscribe today and follow Locked On NBA Draft. All right, final segment here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making this part of your day. Matt Moore filling in for Adam Mares. I do want to talk about some chemistry stuff. And this stuff is very nebulous. And one, it's difficult for us this season more than ever because we're not in a locker room. There is always this debate of how much you can really tell, right? For those of you who don't know, the game ends, we go back, we stand in front of the podium that's outside in the hallway, wait for Malone to finish stewing, win or loss, and fuming, and I imagine just like blowing hot lava out of his head, like anger in Inside Out, and he will come out inevitably very late, and then speak to us for a few minutes. We go back, and then about 5 minutes after Malone's done, the locker room doors open, and that's a media open time. And that lasts approximately 30 to 45 minutes until the players are done with their media availabilities, which is basically until they get dressed and leave. Okay. So you're in there for a short amount of time. You're not in there in the training room where a lot of them are after the game. You're not in there immediately after, in the aftermath of it. They get themselves composed. Obviously, you don't want to be openly expressing if things are great or bad or whatever in front of the media, though sometimes that does happen. So it's like, how much do you really know? You do pick up on a vibe. Like, you just get a sense for where guys are at, because it's impossible, I think, with the adrenaline that they're running on, for it not to really express themselves. You do get a sense for, I've been in happy losing locker rooms. I've been in furious winning locker rooms. I've been in very casual business as usual ones. I've been in, this game really meant something. You get a sense for it. And not having that this season's tough. And you don't get to see the interactions between the guys before the game, after the game, during the game, on the bench. Like, you don't get to see all that, and it's tough. So can't wait to be back in the arena. Can't wait to get things back to quote unquote normal, however normal we can get things. I'm excited for that as soon as it can be. But I am really curious about, if you're building this team and you know that Will Barton and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray get along, and you know that Gary Harris and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray get along, how do you build it? And if you know that Michael Porter Jr. is Michael Porter Jr. and thinks very highly of himself and is very opinionated about a number of topics, I've been told, for example, that like Nikola, as much of a lovable guy and fun guy he is to play with, like, he gets frustrated because he does care about playing games the right way. And we've seen that before. Like, he's had frustrations with various guys that have come through the Nuggets. And so that's the question. It's like, if you're making a trade, you're having to sink assets without knowing how that dynamic's going to work. You have to hope it works. Now, there's also, I think, the hope that as Jokic continues to mature, even though I think he's made such unimaginably big strides this season in terms of his maturity, that he'll be able to move to a point where he's like, look, this is the roster. This is who we got to work with. We're going to make it work, and keeping that attitude up all the time. Jamal, actually, I think, always comes in with that. It's very strange to me that Jamal is so little like what I expected from him after, doing the research on him as a prospect, hearing all the interviews at Kentucky, hearing his first post-draft interview, talking to him at Summer League. He's just not at all the guy that I thought he was going to be, which I think, if nothing else, I think that that's like a lesson for me not to assume. Don't think that these people fit into the patterns that you think they will, right? Because Jamal is thoughtful, and he's considerate, and he's very cerebral. And I genuinely think that he comes in every day with like a sense of a pretty positive attitude, and his determination, I think, guides everything. And I think that's really helpful for their dynamic between Jokic's ability to navigate situations and Jamal's determination to overcome challenge. I think the two of them, that's what's made for that combination to be really great. That said, we're talking about introducing new factors here. Okay. Harrison Barnes won a championship. He's certified. He won a title. He made the finals again. He's a veteran. He's known as he is one of the most smooth talking interviews I've ever heard. There's a reason that his nickname was always the president. So he's just really good with, being in front of a camera and giving interviews. But he's also a really valuable player, obviously. But he worked in Steve Kerr's system. Does that mean he'll work with Jokic and Murray? Aaron Gordon has never played in a complex system. He's never really played with high-level players. this is a key thing here, is that Vucevic is an all-star, and I think he's really good, but that's not a natural fit. And then Vucevic obviously isn't Joker. He's the best point guard he's played with is DJ Augustine. And DJ, I love DJ and thought he was great for them, but DJ's not Jamal Murray. And he's never been in like a really big playoff moment. So there's going to be adjustments there. And the same is true no matter who they trade for. I talked about a little bit about what Gordon kind of thinks of himself as. I could tell you like Lonzo Ball. There's no reason to think that Lonzo Ball thinks that he's just like another dude. Like there's an indication that he's represented by Clutch Sports. Let's just put it that way. And those guys tend to think pretty highly of themselves for good reasons. They have a very good reputation, right? And Lonzo came in with a lot of hype and still continues to carry a lot of hype. So no matter who they trade for, anyone that they trade for, I think you have to factor in, how are those guys going to mesh with Jokic? How is Jokic going to mesh with them? And Murray as well. Like, you know, and is there room enough for all that? And then beyond all that, you have to deal with the MPJ question. And that one, I really just don't know how to predict. I don't know what MPJ is going to be. If I just sat here and told you that, you know, Jamal is entirely different from the guy that I thought he was going to be when he was a rookie, I think the same is true for MPJ. I have no idea what he's going to be. Like, sure, there are archetypes. There are patterns that you've seen throughout NBA history with what happens when guys become stars, when guys get the money, etc. But, you know, everyone's journey is different, and all these guys want to win. That's the commitment, and like that's the difference, and like that I think is the real question that has to be addressed. Someone in the front office once told me that the thing that they were most proud of as an organization was that they were able to get guys that just wanted to play. Like that's what they wanted. They wanted to play. They wanted to go to work. And trade season is complicated because oftentimes you're dealing with individuals that have other goals, and their situation, both basketball and city-wise, is not allowed for that. And Denver's a touchy subject on that one. So there's a lot that goes into this beyond just like, hey, does he work from a basketball perspective? There's just like a lot to figure out. And I don't envy the job of the front office trying to evaluate these trades and talk them out with the coaching staff and figure out what they want to do. This is going to be a tense 48 hours for the Denver Nuggets as they face, once again, one of the most crucial kind of turning points in what's been a remarkable story these last 5 years. That's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks so much for listening. I just genuinely appreciate it. I haven't talked about Boulder, and I do want briefly to talk about it. We've been through a lot, and I'm not a native. I moved here the summer of Aurora. And I was good friends with Ben Hockman, who was the Nuggets beat writer at the time. And Ben knew a young woman named Jessica Gawi who died in Aurora. She was a sports blogger. And she had her life taken by some pathetic, horrible human. And we see these stories over and over again. This is not new. You've heard these stories. I've heard these stories over and over again. I think a lot about the after effects. The moments seem terrifying, but the ripple effects of tragedy, of grief, of depression, of loss, these incidents create such a tear in us, and there's really no way to heal them. I've listened to enough interviews with family of victims from Newtown and Orlando and Aurora and Columbine I'm sure I'll hear them from Boulder too. We haven't shied away from political discourse on the show. You know, we've covered events that seemed like we needed to cover them here, that we needed to speak on them, as this is, everyone, I've heard this phrase so much, I'm tired of living through history. We've lived through a lot of history, and so much of it has been horrible. I'm not going to get into the political discussion about what you know. I'm not going to do it. This is a basketball podcast. I just talked about Aaron Gordon for 20 minutes. However, I promise I'm not going to. I just want to say this. If you're scared, you're not alone. And if you're hurting, you're not alone. And if you're feeling sympathetic grief and don't know why, you're not alone. You are not alone in how our communities are dealing with this again. You are not alone in your outrage at this happening again. You are not alone in your confusion and despair at this happening again. But I am a big believer in collective senses. And what I mean by that is we have to have an acceptance collectively that we allow this to occur. We have seen this pattern over and over again. I had drills in my hometown after Columbine. Kids might, and 20 years later, my son has drills at school. I drop my son off every day at school. And as he crosses the crosswalk with his Avengers backpack, there has not been a day that I haven't made sure to get one more look at him. Because I know there are parents that wish they had gotten one more look. We've allowed this. We have accepted this. And if you don't accept that, if you reject that notion, show me. Show me how you have done something to prevent it. And I'm not pointing fingers on either side of any aisle. I am stating that collectively we have failed because we live in this kind of terror and this kind of tragedy. We've had 2 major shootings since things started to ease up from the global pandemic. If you're hurting, I want you to reach out to someone. If you're compelled to act, I want you to seek out the resources to do so, whether that's locally in your community, giving to organizations, providing your time or money or whatever, to whatever side that you think will do something. You should feel supported in doing that. You should know that I don't think that anyone doesn't care. I just think that we're oblivious to recognizing how truly insane this is. Sorry I had to go there. I didn't want to miss out and be insensitive. This is difficult when you're doing stuff like this, when it's not appropriate for me to, this is not what this podcast is about, but I also don't know what else to say or not say. So if that was a bummer, go back and listen to Aaron Gordon talk again. Or you can listen to me bitch about Compazzo in yesterday's episode again. I'll be back tomorrow. If I will tell you this, if there is a trade, if the Nuggets pull off a trade, I will absolutely do an emergency podcast, and I will grab one of your favorite Nuggets beat writers. I will drag them on here, and we will talk about it. I may even, no, I won't do that. I was going to say I would call Adam, but that's a lie because, again, his phone is in the ocean. I hope you guys have a great week. Terrible start. We're going to get through it as we've gotten through everything else. I hope you're all doing great. Side note, if you have not yet and you are interested, important, if you're interested in such things as some people are not, that have 3 initials, make sure you check in with your local health department to see if they have a vaccine registration form. Those are opening up. That has happened in my county up here in Larimer. So check in with your county health department, local health department, all of those resources if you are looking to get the jab. And I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk soon on another edition of Locked On Nuggets. Thanks, guys.